Hello, we'll try to understand something about ideology today as it is discussed in Marxist criticism and Marxist interpretations, or Marxism rather. In our day to day discussion, by ideology, we generally mean a set of beliefs or value systems, and usually we don't associate any negative or pejorative idea, say, with the term itself. There may be negative ideologies, maybe terrorist ideologies of this group, that group, but then our idea is just a set of beliefs, say Gandhian ideology, we say. But in Marxism, ideology has a very interesting meaning. You know, in fact, we are never out of ideologies. In each society, in each state, or in each given community, there are set of ideologies, but then predominantly there are a set of dominant ideologies, which are the ideologies or ideas basically of the ruling class. As you know, Marxism is based on class struggle. Now, in ruling class, in their own interest, disseminate this ideology which suits them best among all the other classes, so that we subscribe to that ideology and continue in letting ourselves being exploited. Okay, so in Marxist analysis, by and large, all the commonly held great values of all societies basically serve whom? The ruling class, ruling classes. Maybe at times, in case of India, it could be caste, ruling caste. Though class, caste are the same or different, there are certain other things, you know. Because by sheer power, I'm trying to simplify it by giving a telltale example. As we say, even Gandhi himself said in Hind Swaraj that the British are in India because of the Indians. We believed in the ideology of British superiority. Whether they're neutrally superior to us, that is a different question, but by subjugation. Here again, physical subjugation is there. So, physical subjugation and ideological indoctrination, that the white men are better, the sun never sets in the British Empire, etc., etc., Western education is good, all these things actually both worked along with us to make us believe that they're superior, and we held onto them. Here I have done something interesting. I mean, I'm bringing the post colonial thing to explain a Marxist thing. These are all interrelated anyway. But, and even Lenin had said that what is colonialism? It is the kind of last stage of capitalism. Maybe extension of one state's capitalism, capitalist enterprises on other states, or another state is colonialism basically. Anyway, so we believed in the British superiority, that ideology. So ideology trains us to see things not as they are, not objectively, but as particular ruling classes want us to see them. So each country has, each nation has different kind of ideologies. In the earlier days, those are more religious, because religion played a great role. So take the case or example of chastity. Chastity is very important. So many stories, for example, in Indian narratives, how chaste women can even bring their husbands back from the clutches of the god of death, Savitri Satyavan story I'm referring to. But if you shed off your cultural kind of, rather ideological moorings, you would redoubt it whether it is objectively possible at all. Similarly, if we talk about male chastity, though which is, this is not hard much, but it was there, brahmachari and all, but I'll give a Western example here from that famous story of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, which all of you have read. Why or how is Sir Gawain saved from the axe of that Green Knight? Because he remained chaste during his stay for 3 days in that house. So chastity. you know, helps. So, but why it is there? Feminists and other theorists have said that our very existence, right from the beginning of agriculture, is based on the idea of monogamous family. But possibly human beings are by nature not monogamous. So, to put things in place so that the things remain as they are, narratives after narratives, examples of chastity, and all these things are indoctrinated and kind of. I'm not saying this, this is Marxist interpretation. By the way, I have my own theories. There is now no scope for this. These are Marxist theories, feminist theories. So, I hope you have understood what is ideology by now in Marxist terms. That is a set of false beliefs or false ideas which are hammered into your head from early childhood by different institutions, mainly religious. These days, educational institutions mainly take the play the role of religion. Anyway, so all these values in themselves, the values may not be bad also. That is exactly not what the Marx is saying, that chastity is bad, or the entire Ramayana and Mahabharata is about the rule of the father. Rama went to forest to keep the honor of his father's word. So the idea is father is at the center. Similarly in Mahabharata, Devabrata, who became Bhishma, the entire thing started the cascading effect of trying to honoring his father's wish. So all these things show that what we consider aesthetic, neutral, or ennobling are actually based on a huge structure of socio-cultural politics that to unmask. That is why in his very famous book, all of you should read this, a kind of beginner's book, but that makes many interesting points. Terry Eggleton's Literary Theory. He says that it is superfluous in a way to talk about literature and ideology. Literature itself is an ideology. So, now that the theory of ideology is quite clear to you, you try to question the kind of values that you have been given from your childhood. And finally, all these are to keep society in place. But what kind of a society? Basically, capitalist society. A group of people, the ruling class, the bourgeois, they are getting all benefits. And those of us who are in the middle getting some peanuts now and then, and the working class is getting almost nothing. This is the simple part. There are further complications, further classes, divisions, but the basics, as I said in another video, must be clear. So, ideology keeps capitalism or empire, these oppressive structures basically in their places. Now, literature, let us come to literature. Literature also in classical Marxist criticism represents the idea of the dominant classes. If you read Jane Austen, for instance, so many nice things, marriage, good things, but what we do not know there, for example, is how is the condition of the servants in those big houses, manors, etc. So Jane Austen, Dickens is not a very good example because Dickens goes against that Marxist trend. So here we come to the problematization of this concept of ideology, so far as literature is concerned, by some later Marxists, prominent among them Jörg Lukács, who said that we cannot simplistically say that literature just communicates the idea of the ruling class. Literature is capable of inhabiting in a world of its own, or rather creating an aesthetic world of its own, or rather a world of its own. Aesthetic will complicate things here. A world which can expose the ideologies of the ruling classes, capitalist classes, societies, and make us see things as they are. For example, Dickens is a very good example in our, say, Indian literature or Bangla literature. Sharat Chandra Chattopadhyay is a very good example. Not so much Bankim Chandra. Bankim In his novels, he spoke partially against colonialism or Mughal imperialism and not so much about the working class. However, if you read Bankim's prose pieces, he was one of the vocal champions of the rights of the subalterns, for instance. But novelistically, it was Sharat Chandra. Similarly, in Hindi, Premchand. All these plights of the poor class, working class, right now also their sufferings are the most. And all these things. So, ideology, again, I'm coming back to the thing in Marxist terminology, it implies a set of false beliefs or notions which is generated, created, and disseminated by the ruling class for their own interest, which the greater public knowingly or unknowingly internalizes and kind of lets their exploitation to continue. This is the core thing. There are differences, deviations, postmodern Marxists like Laclau and others talk deeply about language. Now, we don't need that, but we need another post-structuralist Marxist here, Althusser. Althusser gave two very important things in further analysis of ideology. The state, yes, after the 19th century, rather, state has become the most important criterion of your existence. If you are not a citizen of any state, you are nowhere. You are in a no man's land. No. So the state, any state, and so I'm not talking about India. This could be Pakistan, America, all state. According to Althusser, keeps its powers at place. In Marxist views, change of governments from this group to that group doesn't mean anything, because the ideology that remains is of capitalism by and large, unless there is a revolution and the rule of the proletariat. So any government in any state, whether Barack Obama or Trump, more or less. So two things are there. Ideological state apparatuses and repressive state apparatuses, ISA and RSA. Ideological state apparatuses, ISA. Repressive state apparatuses, RSA. So, what are these? So, ideological state apparatuses are those, just as I gave the example of religion, but Althusser says today the role of religion is taken by educational institutions. So school, college, etc. All these, even maybe sporting clubs, different clubs, today of course multinational companies, they give you certain values, ideas from the beginning, all goody nice things, liberal values that if you, for example, if you can compete, if you do hard work, the world is yours. You can buy Mercedes. They cite some stories how this person became CEO of that multinational company, even from being a very poor background. What they hide is, to each such success story, there will be 5 crore unsuccessful stories, stories of lack of success. So, citing one example, they try to. So the meaning is that if you are not successful in life, it is your fault, not the given system's fault. All right. So this kind of ideologies, different kinds, you'll understand. So they interpellate us. School, college, all academic institutions. That is why universities are kept autonomous bodies from the beginning in India and in every other places, because it is expected and understood that, like literature, universities should be able to operate from a politically neutral zone, so that we pursue true knowledge its own end. And we are quite fortunate that to a great extent we are so in India and elsewhere also. So that is why, that's why I did not include universities, because they are kept as autonomous bodies. But otherwise, by and large, the different kinds of institutions that are in the society, they're expected to promote this kind of values, which continue the huge class divide haves and have-nots and all that, but on the face of it, humanitarian, this and that. Okay, this one. This is ISA. This is one apparatus of the state, so one hand. There is another hand, that is repressive state apparatuses. If you do not listen to, or where ideological state apparatuses fail, so then comes police, court, military, so many things, you know. So they will take care of you, judge you, put you in prison, or maybe India is a very liberal state, but in some other states, even like Russia, China, my God, though they are a communist state. So all this thing is very difficult, you know. India, if in this case, is some token punishment, maybe there may not be there, those by the way, but China and other places, if you speak against the kind of any state ideology, then very difficult. And so repressive state they will repress you. Where RSA fails, sorry, where ISA fails, ideological state apparatus, RSA's work, repressive state apparatus. In fact, they keep working parallelly, and it is, we are made to understand that this is for our own good. For example, if curfew is there, if we go out, there might be loss to our lives from other citizens who don't abide by the laws. So flag march, police, etc. Yes, objectively we also see as very good. These are for our good, greatest good of the greatest number of people. But what finally all these institutions do, according to Marxist criticism, according to Althusser, is that they keep the system in place which is not giving respite from this huge gap between haves and have-nots. So I think you will remember this, and also remember the power of literature to speak against ideologies or create counter ideologies. And ISA may be compared to the concept of hegemony, or some people pronounce it hegemony. Hegemony is also very similar. In fact, it is more related to Gramsci. In fact, Althusser spoke about hegemony when he referred to IS. IS is actually used to create hegemony. Hegemony or hegemony is rule by consent. When, if I say that all you are under me, I will rule you, then most people will be against me. And someday or other you will be revolting, even though if I have a strong military power. So I'd rather say that I'm grateful to all of you. You are my teachers. You all are leaders. I'm just, I want to learn from you. So you all will willingly lend yourselves to be ruled by me. So that is hegemony, rule by consent. So hegemony and counter hegemonies can be there. That is another part. That's a Gramsci. So it's very interesting. And I think with this, since class struggle was discussed in details in class, we come to an end of the discussion of the concept of ideology. In fact, this is the beginning. Now read from your texts. I hope this encourages you. So again, going back to the example that I cited first at the very beginning, British rule was successful because for a great part it was a hegemony or hegemony. We believed they were superior, and many of us wanted this to remain in place. In fact, today also many people, like my grandmother, they lament, grandmothers and all, that the British should not have left. We were way better during British time. This kind of ideas, which objectively, which is not true. Situation was far worse than today, but that kind of belief was inculcated. So ideology is a complex process. We have to bring a bit of Freud and psychoanalysis here. Critics have argued that ideology almost works unconsciously. So Frederick Jameson, another critic, has a term called the political unconscious. Anyway, so much for ideology. Thank you so much.